Welcome, Reds, to the 100% United pod. I'm your host, TC. Back alongside me today is your co-host, Ben. How you doing, pal? God, a pretty lively few days.
Yeah, not much has happened since we last spoke, has it? I'm
Dear
all
me.
right, though, mate. I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Of course, very, very happy to get the win today. I would have taken any kind of win, but that kind of win was pretty nice. Of course, it's been a weird time, hasn't it, over the last few days with Ole leaving. Not like any other manager leaving, of course, in our experience. We had Fergie leaving, but that was on a high. But for someone who we have such fond feelings for to leave on a low, that was tricky stuff. And then, of course, we've got the rumours circling about the new boss and who that might be. The bookies don't have a clue what's going on. The odds are going up and down and round the back. So we will cover all of that today. But first of all, of course, we will focus on that big win for Manchester United tonight in the Champions League away at Villarreal. Not an easy place to go at all. They haven't lost to a team outside Spain in the Champions League from many matches, and we went there, professional performance, got the job done under the guidance of Michael Carrick. Let's hope that it's not going to be under his guidance for too long, not because of the way he performed today in the manager chair, but because we need to get this season back on track, Ben. It's a lot to get through today, mate.
Yes, mate. I mean, like I said, tonight is exactly what we needed, isn't it? It's been an absolute whirlwind of a couple of days, and I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit later on the total weird feeling around the club at the minute and the situation. But judging on tonight, judging on Carrick, judging on the team's performance in this one-off game, it's what we needed. Thank God we've got a clean sheet. We've got the victory. We're through to the next round, and it's just that, isn't it? It's job done, and then we can't really look forward to the future too much at the minute because we don't really know what's to come.
We don't, but it is monstrous, isn't it? It's monstrous because we're qualified, right? We can basically rest players when we have our final game. We can focus on the Premier League games, and whoever is the new boss will have the Champions League to look forward to next February, isn't it? January, February. We don't have the problems with having to pull something out of the fire under a new manager potentially when we have our final match week day. So for me, it was, I think for the future of the club and just to convince us all that we're not that bad, right? Because we have been just desperate in the last few weeks, and we needed to see that the players are not going to feel that way going on and under a new interim and a new manager. And that was just about as good as it could get tonight, I think. Come on, Ben. We weren't expecting to see the swashbuckling sort of 99 team, 2008 team tonight, were we? We were functional. We got the job done. And as you say, we're through.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest, mate. The standards were on the floor from the past few weeks, and the performances that we've seen both before and after the international break. And like you said, the job that came in hand, all you heard Carrick speaking before the match on what his sort of remit was at the minute, what he was trying to get through in terms of this game, in terms of pulling the team together after Ole leaving, and what was needed tonight. You're right. What we needed was a clean sheet against a Villarreal side that we've struggled with a hell of a lot in just the past sort of 8 months alone, haven't we, really, let alone anything else. So that was important. It was important, like I said, to keep the clean sheet that was the big thing. That was to keep a solid defensive performance together and then nick those 2 goals and get the win. Like I say, it wasn't vintage. It wasn't one that'll go down in the history books as such, but it's one that's vitally important to keep the season together at the minute, because that's what we're sort of looking at the minute, isn't it? We're not really looking too far ahead because we don't know quite what the future holds in terms of the managerial position. But we know, like you said, when those Champions League fixtures come round again, there's knockout stages in February, and after that, we need to be in the mix. We need to be there, and they're the fighting chance, and we've secured that now. So that was the important bit for tonight. And there's some pleasing signs as well from individual performances and from a bit more of a collective feel. And it's after considering what we saw at the weekend on Saturday, I think it's really the best we could have hoped for.
Yes, and it's a fantastic insurance policy, isn't it? No matter what happens, between now and over the Christmas period, no matter what we do, because of course we're still relying on the powers that be to make some good decisions here. So, which is always dangerous. We know that if we sort ourselves out by the time the Champions League kicks in again, we're in the hat. We've got a chance. So it's just massive, massive win for us tonight. Get it qualified, get it done. Let's get stuck into the game, Ben, because we've got the match to cover, and of course we've got the managerial position and all that that comes with that to cover as well. So, look, in terms of the lineup, David De Gea in goal, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire, Telles starting at left back. So that was the first big change from Michael Carrick. McTominay and Fred started in midfield alongside Donny van de Beek, which is the other big change because Donny van de Beek started instead of Bruno Fernandes. So that's a big call. Sancho started alongside Martial and Ronaldo. They pretty much played every combo, those three up front, without Sancho playing through the middle for any lengthy period of time. So they were pretty interchangeable. And what do you make of the lineup when you saw it, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I think changes needed to be made, whoever was in charge, let's be honest, after the weekend performance. But it was look, it still takes some guts to leave Bruno out, to put people like Martial, Van der Beek in from the start. It does take guts, and Carrick made those calls. That's obviously down to him preparing the team for this. It was the Fred partnership, so you still saw like examples of, obviously Carrick's been involved with the Ole regime and the things that have gone on the start of the season. You still saw a bit of that in the lineup, but yeah, it was a little bit something different. It was Martial coming in, which was a little bit dubious of. I can't really say he's not coming on the back of his own form. It's more been through the failings of everyone else. Let's be honest, that a couple of these players that will have got the shouts, but it was nice to see Sancho in there, and it was kind of surprising he still left Bruno out. But then on reflection, Bruno's didn't have a great weekend. Hasn't been great, let's be honest, for quite a while now, and has looked like he needed a rest at points where we couldn't afford to rest him because of the state of the team itself. So yeah, I wasn't going against any decisions as such, but still being said, it still takes some guts to make them.
Yes, absolutely. So those were the changes he made. Some things never changed though, Ben, because I was reading the bench and Heaton Henderson. What's that all about?
Yeah, to the two keepers.
Just
Why, oh why?
In honour of Ollie. And then we had Bailly, Dalot, Matic, Lingard, Mata, Bruno Fernandes, Ahmad, and Marcus Rashford. I've got to be honest with you, Ben. I had a power cut about an hour and 15 minutes before the game. So, and it was the whole town. So everything went out. You know, your TV's gone, your internet's gone, everything's gone. So I didn't actually see the team news until about about quarter past. So half an hour late, right? So half an hour before kickoff, and of course I was sort of scrambled to see what the team was. I didn't realise Bruno was dropped until basically the teams came out, because the United Instagram still insist on putting the team in number order. The best wind up is they put the subs in the correct order, right?
Yeah.
So they do the team, and then the subs, which obviously doesn't matter in any way, shape, or form, they put in terms of goalkeepers, defenders, midfielders, forwards. It's such a wind up. And actually, the United Instagram in general is a total wind up. You know, we'll touch on that later with the Ollie stuff and just the tripe they put out. That's got to change as well, because whoever's at the helm there is having a laugh.
Yeah, I mean the lineup one is one that's been a gripe for. It's been going on a few seasons now, hasn't it? In the number order, and it's one of the smallest things in the club, and one of the smallest things, but it doesn't half annoy you when the lineups come out, and then you immediately have to go to another app or another page and immediately look for another lineup, because you're just scrambling around, like you said, to try and find what the formation is as well, which is...
Can't work it out, can you?
No, it never helps anyone, does it?
It really doesn't. But look, that's the way we lined up, and of course one of the changes, Alex Telles delivered a sumptuous clipped free kick into the box. McTominay fired into the side netting, and then David De Gea had to make a save, a low, slippery one for David De Gea, wasn't it? One of those ones where if it goes in, you're pointing the finger at the keeper, but when they make the save, you think that was quite a tricky save.
Yeah, and look, he's had to be on form, hasn't he, at the minute? Even when the results have gone down, he has always been able to pull it out of the bag. And like we
Yeah,
say, he needed to. He absolutely needed to again there.
he did. And the pressure built, didn't it, for Villarreal over a few minutes, sort of from the 5th to the 10th, I'd say. Ended with a chance from a tight angle, and they followed it up with a couple of half chances. Nothing too much, but it was interesting, wasn't it, watching United in that first sort of 20 minutes and look at the just the differences in terms of going from Ole to Carrick, even just, and of course Carrick is not a big change from Ole because they worked together for the last almost 3 years. So I suppose we saw that midfield shape was interesting, wasn't it? We had when we were with the ball, we had a 3-man midfield, so 4-3-3. And then when we were defending, it was a very defined 4-4-2, wasn't it? With Fred actually going out to the left, Donny tucking into the middle, and Sancho playing as a proper right winger. What do you make of that, Ben?
Yeah, I thought that was the most interesting thing because you're looking at the lineup and the personnel, and even with the big calls, you wouldn't be surprised still if that was an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer team in terms of the lineup that went out on the pitch, but bar from Donny maybe. But the way they played it, you're right. It was strange because I think myself, like a lot of United fans out there, we probably thought when the news got announced that Carrick was going to take over that it was, are we really going to see anything different? Because he's been on this road, he's been an influential figure in the team whilst Ollie's been here, and he's almost one of his right hand men. So it was interesting to see that. But you're right, it was a clear change from the weekend and from how we've played before. Really using that 4-4-2. Ronaldo spent a lot of time out wide in that first 20 minutes, didn't he, on the left hand side? I know the interchange and he swapped with Martial just after that, but it was interesting because it seemed to be a 4-4-2 with Donny still pushing really high, even in that central position, and then McTominay was deeper. Like I say, Fred out left. I think my big worry was any sort of threat down our left with Fred pushing out there. His obviously tendency would be to come inside more, and Tellez not being the most defensive left back in the world. That was my worry, I think, with that setup. But look, it was trying something a little bit different, trying to be a bit more compact in midfield. I don't think
Yeah.
it wasn't without its failings. I thought we still left quite a few holes in between the spaces, but I think you've got to give credit where credit's due because we've got to change something after the weekend. We've got to change the way we defend somehow, and that was obviously an attempt to try and wrestle the situation.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, there was a bit of pressing. I'd say there was more pressing probably than we've seen in recent weeks. And as you say, Ronaldo and Martial were interchanging. Sancho switching over as well. One thing I will say is, of course, you have to remember Carrick was with Jose Mourinho before Solskjaer, so he worked under the Mourinho reign as well, didn't he? And did he work with Van Gaal as well at the end?
I think he did as well. He's been there for
Just at the
some
end, or
years
he was
now.
certainly coaching, right? So, and one thing I would say, right, and look, we've learnt our lesson from the Ollie thing, right? I want this Carrick thing to be over and done with as quick as possible. It's possible Carrick will go on to be an amazing manager, come back to United after he's gone and done his, gone to a club that he can grow at and then come to United. I will not. I am not going to start writing off ex players just because an ex player didn't work. Because I thought about it, and that's what everyone's been doing with great managers, right? We tried great managers, so now we don't want to try it again. So I don't want to totally rule anyone out. But what I would say about Carrick, which is interesting, is that although Carrick and Ollie did play together, Ollie, I would say, is much more inspired by the Fergie period of sort of 99 to 02, I would think, right? Old school football. Whereas I would say the 07-08 team, the way we played was the most modern football that we ever played under Fergie. Because of course, when Quiras went, I think we regressed in terms of continental style under Phelan. So Carrick has actually played in the era when we played the most continental and the most the most modern football under Sir Alex Ferguson.
Yeah, I know what you're saying in terms of his influences and stuff. I think, like I said at the top of that, let's not get carried away with anything at the minute. And
I'm not.
if Carrick leaves tomorrow, I will wave him goodbye and say thank you very much, and let's move on. But no, you're right. I mean, a lot of things when you see a lot of players that become managers, sometimes you have expectations as well for them to manage how they played the game, whereas it's more important to look at the managers either that they've worked with or played under, and that's the sort of football they end up trying to replicate or taking in as influence more than anything, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think
Well, if you think back to the Champions League final in Moscow, it wasn't so different, was it? In terms of we actually played Hargreaves. Hargreaves played right wing most of the time, didn't he?
yeah, and I suppose that sort of Wayne Rooney left wing come forward position that he took up throughout the European games, especially away games in Europe at the back end of Fergie's career was
Exactly. And
was that.
and then of course we put Ronaldo on Essien because Essien played right back, didn't he? So we popped Ronaldo and he tore him a new one. So it wasn't dissimilar to that. And look, I for me, Carrick's hat is not even in the ring. But I'm just saying it's interesting from in terms of the style because you presume he will be exactly the same as Ollie, but it was different, but it was still pretty cautious, wasn't it? Let's be fair, it was cautious, but I'd say there seemed to be a bit more of a game plan.
Yeah, look, you're right. Like Carrick, let's be honest, he's had 48 hours for this match preparation. He's got to go somewhere in his mind or into his career to figure out a game plan to put into place for this game in terms of making United, making our team more defensively sound. So
Yeah,
if that's him going back to his playing days, if he's going back to calling up what he learned under, like you say, Mourinho or previous managers, he's got to go somewhere to get this sort of experience because his experience as a manager isn't there. This is his
of
first ever
course.
game as a number one as a manager. So you're
Yeah.
right, he's got to go and get some influence from somewhere. But yeah, it's a weird way of assessing a game, isn't it, at the minute? But you're right, there was more positives than what we've seen, let's be honest, and we've won the game 2-0 and we've kept a clean sheet and we've been a bit more compact. I thought that we were fortunate the fact that Villarreal didn't really play to their full potential, I didn't think, because we let them off the hook a little bit at times and gave a lot of space away. But you're right, there's more to take out of it positive than negative, I think.
Yeah, and it might be simply that the players have still got the fight in them, and of course, sometimes as we've seen before, removing a manager is enough to get a tune out of players for a few weeks. Right, you just remove the manager, and it doesn't really matter who is in charge; they will get a tune. So that has to be taken into account at all times. Of course, personally, I couldn't care less whether it is Carrick or whether it is the players. The good thing is that the players did put in the effort tonight. And I know Ollie always used to say that the players work hard and I can't fault them and blah, blah, blah. Maybe sometimes he should have because the players ran harder tonight.
Yeah,
And that's not misplaced passes. That's not the brain not working hard, fast enough. Sorry. That's just simple effort, and whether that is inspired by that or not, well, there you go.
yeah, you're right, but I think the players have got to be culpable for that as well, haven't they? They've got to, like, how many times Harry Maguire and Bruno Fernandes have said they're going to look in themselves in the mirror this season is ridiculous. But the players have got to look after themselves here and look at their own performances and think if this is where they're at now and this is not the effort they've been showing, and let's be honest, it wasn't to the full potential tonight. It's a low bar they've set themselves this season so far. So yeah, I think the players have got to be culpable for that. I know Ollie's gone, but the coaching staff's still there, the system's still in place. We've seen tweaks tonight, but the players have got to have big question marks in terms of how they've performed this season.
Yes, but the buck does stop with the boss, mate. It does.
Oh, absolutely.
We have to, although through the emotions, we still have to do what's best for United. We do, Look, David De Gea whipped out a superb save. Looked like he might have put his back out, didn't he? He was feeling the small of his back, but a good save from David De Gea. And then Sancho went dancing on that right wing, whipped in a cross, dangerous again. He was more lively as well. Tellez, what do you think of Tellez giving the ball a kiss before a corner? A bit much, isn't it?
Yeah, and it was a shocking corner as
Oh,
well.
wasn't it? That's exactly what I thought. I thought if you're going to give give the ball a kiss before whipping in a corner, it has to be a peach.
Oh, have a day off. Kissing the ball before a corner now.
Nuts, mate. Nuts. But he did whip in a nice cross to Ronaldo a second later. Beautiful hang time from Ronaldo. Just couldn't get that power on it. Straight at the keeper. But we were getting more decent crosses in. I suppose that's another thing that you could earmark, sort of flag up differences between sort of the last few weeks and today. There was some quality crosses going in there.
Yeah, there was. I mean, I wouldn't say it was peppered, was it, with quality or with crosses, but there was.
It wasn't Moisey level.
There was.
I mean, we're not talking that, we're not talking Fulham at home, Moisey special, but who can whip that many crosses in?
Well, exactly. If that's the blueprint, then dear me.
Let's get Big Mo back. But you're right. No, it wasn't peppering. Just a few decent crosses. Look, Ben, as you say, we're lower than a snake's belly at the moment. So just a little something nice, is fine with us. Good corner. A defensive header from a corner. When we're defending the corner, the set pieces were a little bit nicer today as well, weren't they? They're a little bit better. Don't know whether Carrick sacked Ramsey yet or what, but look, we'll take the small victories at the moment, pal.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, the fact that we weren't conceding by this point as well was a positive, to be perfectly honest.
Well, that is definitely a big point, isn't it? A game plan goes out the window if you concede that early. And you can say that maybe Ole did have a game plan, right? But we kept on conceding early. Unfortunately, conceding early it became a habit, didn't it? It became something that we did again and again because we were doing something to make it happen. It wasn't just chance. You could be the fastest cyclist in the world, but if you keep on falling over at the start of the race and having to get back on your bike, you're not going to win any races. And you might be the fastest, you might be great, you might have a great game plan, but if you keep on doing it, you're doing something wrong to keep on falling early on in the race. So, it was a bit better. Pino got yellow carded, didn't he, on the 33rd. Nice stuff from United as well, leading up to that yellow card. It was one of those obvious cards, wasn't it? You watch in Europe and someone's losing their head over a little bit and you think he's first in the book. And so he was. Look, Ronaldo and Martial were threatening around the 35-minute mark. And Fred went down what looked like a very bad ankle injury, but he seemed to shake it off, didn't he?
Yeah, he was heavily involved tonight, wasn't he? You've got to say, in that first half, he was running around a bit trying to find his position and stuff. But he was one player that was definitely involved tonight. You can't knock him for that.
Do you think? I mean, we've seen Fred for Brazil, and he almost always plays alongside a more defensive midfielder, doesn't he? For Brazil, so he's that middle man that break things up and buzz around and basically make himself a complete nuisance. And he played a bit more that role today, didn't he? Because he was the left-hand man when we played our starting lineup. So McTominay was the one who would hold that position, and Fred was allowed to go and sort of put out fires a little bit more, which is probably actually Fred's best job. Unfortunately, he's also, bearing in mind Matic's age, one of probably our best option in the deep position as well.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think when you look at him as a player, he's got clear limitations in terms of his defensive ability and in terms of his attacking ability and passing. But you're right, that sort of middle position where he's pressuring the ball, and you could imagine essentially Fred in a team that works on high pressure and works on high energy. He would be that man that would hassle and harry, and you're right, go and try and win the ball like we saw later on in the game, try and make those interceptions, and then pass it on to a player with a bit more quality or a bit more about them.
Exactly.
That is his limitation, isn't it? I think the problems that has been when you're right, when we put too much onus on his defensive ability and expecting him to suddenly be this all-encompassing defensive midfielder.
Well, yeah, it's that. I mean, it's that, but it's also in possession as well, isn't it? If you're the middleman, if you're the buzzer, if you like, then if your pass percentage isn't, right up there, close to 90, then you can get away with that. If you're the deep lying man, you really can't. Not in modern football. You need to be retaining that football, and Fred just can't do it. So, he's lucky that he is the best in those positions, but he's unlucky that he probably isn't up to the standards that us United fans would like him to be, certainly in the deep position. And it's touch and go, isn't it, in the middle position? So, but he's better than the rest. So we will have to sort that out, won't we, as time goes by, that midfield issue. But Fred was down. Villarreal played on when he was down. And then we saw a rarity, didn't we? David De Gea with a big throw out, Schmeichel-esque, and Van der Beek and Sancho probed nicely. But it was nice, wasn't it? I mean, we haven't seen that much.
Yeah, well, adding a little bit more to his game, but I think it was that moment, wasn't it? I thought the first half sort of showed this a lot, where when we started moves, we had some sort of nice interchanges. You mentioned Van der Beek and Sancho there, and there was a couple of nice ones, and then we just got to a certain point, and then we couldn't really push past that, could we? And really create some attacking threat. But I think we were almost caught between two stools. I think the first point of call was clearly to make sure we were defensively sound. Let's get through this first half.
Yeah.
There was obviously a bit of nervousness around the team, around the squad, around everything that's gone on, which is understandable considering the situation. And obviously Carrick will never admit it or show it, but will have been nervous himself about how the team is then going to go out on the pitch. So I think
100%.
that first half was a little bit weak up front, but the point was we were trying to sort of build something and just get through it at that point.
And come on, pal, we've been trying to shore up the defence for the last,
Yeah.
I mean, how many weeks? All we've been trying to do is shore it. So I know what you're saying, that we basically tried to keep it tight in the first half there. We've been trying to do that for weeks, mate, and we failed miserably. And actually, that was tonight. That was the archetypal United away performance in Europe. The amount of times I've watched Fergie teams do that exact performance, maybe not the exact formations, but variations on the theme, and you basically don't give them much of a sniff. You get that first goal, and you get a late second, and you take the 3 points back to Old Trafford, and it's all good. And as I said before, Villarreal's not an easy place to go and play. It's not at all. We faced up to a team who are, well, they had more possession, didn't they, on the night than us anyway. But yeah, it was that's a bloody good win tonight, Ben. Bloody good win.
Yeah, and Unai Emery as well isn't an easy manager to play against.
Yeah.
We've seen that, and
well, I must say, sorry to interject, but Scott sent me a voicemail at the end of the match, and he said if we had played like that in the Europa League final, we'd probably have a Europa League trophy in the cabinet. So
it might be right. It might well be right. Well, if we'd have won 2-0, we definitely would have done, wouldn't we? But yes, I think as well, just on that, is it was good to see tonight how the way we've sort of said, especially in that first half, the way we were defending was slightly different and stuff. It was clearly an idea to match that Villarreal team in that game. It's not a formation or a game plan that will work going forward. It might not work at the weekend against Chelsea, but it was clearly, obviously, we know Villarreal, the way they set up at Old Trafford, and they like to play with that almost that 4-4-2 in attack, didn't they? And Dan Juma caused us a hell of a lot of problems at Old Trafford when we played them. And we could see us trying to nullify their threats, which I just thought was quite a nice way that, look, we've clearly tried to go with plans A's this season, and they've gone out the window pretty quickly. So it was nice to see that even if it was not the most glamorous first half performance, but it was one that you could see it was carrying out the instructions that were there, which I think has been the most frustrating thing, hasn't it, watching us at the minute, that we just can't see what we're trying to do. At least tonight, we actually saw some sort of game plan coming together.
Yeah, and Wan-Bissaka looked after Danjuma very well, didn't he? He really did. And actually, Wan-Bissaka played very deep today, though. He very rarely got forward. And actually, it's again something that I'm not averse to that at all. I'm not averse to having a defensive fullback on one side and an ultra-attacking one on the other. So in terms of balance, when you've got Wan-Bissaka on the other side, the balance is better with Telles on the other side. But in general, Shaw is a much better player than Telles. So then you have to take away the balance and go for the better players, right? Because Shaw's the best out of the three. So, but that tactic of playing if you have got an ultra defensive, I mean, look, in let's go back to 2008 again, shall we? Wes Brown basically played the whole season right back and had a bloody good game right back. Bloody good season right back. But he's a defensive right back, isn't he? Wes Brown. He's a proper defensive right back. So you've got Evra is then given license to get forward even more on the other side. But at the same time, you do have to say on the defensive side with Wan-Bissaka, it must have helped him having Sancho just in front of him all the time, not just as help, but also to make the passing line into Danjuma a little bit more tricky. So Danjuma's not getting the ball in acres all the time, and then Wan-Bissaka has to deal with that. He's getting it and having to think very quickly. So all of these little things work into a successful night at the office. It's not always just down to fine margins or luck.
The famous quote. It's not. But you mentioned Sancho there, and how long have we been crying out for a bit of presence in front of Wan-Bissaka on the wing? And I thought what Sancho did really well, because we all know from seeing his time at Dortmund that he can come inside and be a bit of a playmaker. I thought he did really, really well tonight at just offering something different at all times. You know, he could go outside, and we've seen him now have that ability to whip across him from the outside, and then he can come inside as well. And obviously, we saw with the goal later on, him add that to his game. But I just thought it was really impressive tonight, just how many options he was able to give us on that right hand side. It wasn't just how we saw at the start of the season with a Dan James there that was a push and run, or how we've seen in certain games just an option out on that right hand side to cover for the left hand side. It was something really there to give us a bit more of an option. Like I said, it was a pass in for Wan-Bissaka, but it was also at times an ability to just stretch the defence a little bit. And I thought he gave us quite a bit on that right hand side today.
He really did. He really didn't. And actually, Ben, I mean, we have to look to the future, and we also have to look to the past a little bit to learn our lessons. And there's been a lot of things said, in terms of, Tellez, Donny, Sancho, and they all played tonight. They all played well. There's no problem with bringing Bruno off the bench, an angry, hungry Bruno off the bench. It's good. It's a good option. Tellez is not this, blooming 2-bit left back that some people would have you believe. He played tonight, played all right. Didn't set the world on fire. His set pieces were worse than Luke Shaw's. But, we played those players and we played a good team. We got the result. As I said at the start, I just wanted to know that I am not totally shot to bits and that this team is actually quite good, and it's not the whole thing that has gone to pot, I suppose. Yeah,
of course you're right. And at the minute, we're just trying to find some sort of ground to then build off on again, because that's where we're at, isn't it? It's gone to pieces. It's been a shambles in the past few weeks, and well beyond that, really. And now we're just trying to pull it together so then we can have a base to go from. You're right.
And we've got a base now, Ben. That's our base. We've got one. We got it tonight.
Exactly. And you look at these players and you're thinking, even though Sancho had a good night, he's got so many levels to go to from this performance tonight. But that's just a base now. He's got that under his belt. Like you say, Tellez has got the game. Van der Beek has got a decent game out of himself. So you've got these players now that
Martial even going to throw him in there.
Well, yeah, get in whilst we're letting everyone in. Get in quickly and see if anyone notices.
He was still daydreaming the whole blooming half, wasn't he, dear me? Look, Donny van der Beek did get booked. Me and Scott discussed that he could have got himself in a bit of trouble at the weekend. He's got to watch it. He has got to watch it because he's not the fastest of guys, but he is very passionate, and he basically goes in. It's the kind of thing. Last 5 minutes on the AstroTurf, that's the kind of challenge I'm chucking in. Luckily, we didn't have any refs, so you could go a bit higher than him. But I didn't actually think it was a yellow, Ben. His foot was sliding along the floor. He got the ball. Sure, his studs were showing, but his foot was on the floor. For me, no yellow.
Yeah, I thought when you saw the replay, because I didn't quite see it in normal time, and you saw the replay, and it was a bit harsh because, like I said, he actually did get the ball. I know he probably went through a bit of the man as well, and it was
but his foot was on the floor,
But it wasn't any malice in it. It wasn't any risk of danger to the opponent or anything like that. So I thought it was a very harsh one.
You've actually hit the nail on the head though by saying it's a bit of a stretcher. That's exactly why he got booked, and it's exactly why I panicked at the weekend.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what he does. He stretches and lunges, so he's just got to watch that. And then Ben, I was getting blooming post-traumatic stress disorder because we decided to go passing out from the back again, didn't we? 1 minute to go until the end of the half, and there was no route out. You could see it was so obvious. I wonder what the players see, from pitch level. We're obviously lucky, aren't we? Because we're looking for the gantry. But the players, surely you can see that. Come on, it's And it actually meant we ended up the half under massive pressure, didn't we? For the last 2 minutes. I mean, it wasn't kitchen sink stuff, but for the last 2 minutes, we were basically defending where we could have, on the 44th, gone long. We could have done a plethora of things and not ended the half basically holding on. So again, we've just got to get a bit more cute. I understand that I've got to get with the times a little bit and understand that teams are going to pass out from the back and it's going to make me uncomfortable sometimes. But we've also got to say that 1 minute to go in the half, 0-0, away in Europe, manager's just been sacked, clean sheet hasn't happened since God knows how many games. Do we really need to pass out from the back now? We can just go long, can't we? And also, I think we should have, like, the amount of times today I saw so many Villarreal players up near our box pressing us. We've got to have some kind of plan B call where someone makes a call, a shout, and someone knows to run off Ronaldo. And basically we just go long to Ronaldo, and whoever's playing with Ronaldo goes off him, because the chances have got to be there. And we'll get more goals that way than we will passing out from the back when we have no way out.
Yeah, and it's been a clear sort of Achilles heel, hasn't it, for us this season, of when we've come up against a team that have pressed us high and we've continued to do the passing out from the back and failed at it miserably. You're right. There needs to be some sort of way out of it, because it's all right saying we'll always pass through the press, but I think to do that, we need to have a setter in place. We need to have let's be honest, a permanent coach for one, and a way of playing that matches that, and a whole game plan to go with it. You can't say, oh, that's a good thing to do, but then what's the plan after that? It's not good enough to have that. You're right. It needs to be a little bit of a plan B when these teams go and press at us, because Villarreal were doing that, and you could see them doing that, and they were doing it every time. That was the trigger. Was literally, it goes out to, as Maguire and Lindelof split, as soon as it went out to them, they were off, and that was the trigger for them. They were knowing, so you could see that in their game plan. But you're right, it needed to be something, just mix it up a little bit, or try something a little bit else to try and get in behind their midfield, really.
Exactly. It's when you see 6 or 7 of them pressing, you don't have to be good at maths to know that Ronaldo jumping and whoever's playing with him, whether it's Martial, whether it's Rashford, and you've still got Sancho somewhere out there on the right, the probability of you carving something out with a long ball there is pretty high. So that's something that we shouldn't be shying away from at all. You see all those yellow shirts pressing up, and just a simple call. You can change it every game. Talking about yellow shirts, though, we did have the perfect storm in terms of kits tonight, didn't we, Ben? So we had Villarreal, of course, in the yellow, so we couldn't wear yellow shorts at all. Champions League, so we wore yellow numbers instead of white. That combo tonight was pretty bloody tasty.
Yeah, no, I'm a fan of that kit as well. I am this season.
I think it's the pick of the bunch.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Yes. Absolutely with you on that.
It is. It's a perler. Look, if you like it, then I understand, but it will never be the same as the thing that it was based on from back in the early 90s. That kit that, of course, sharp view cam on the front, absolute cult classic at Manchester United. If you want to get your mitts on that or something similar, get over to vintageunitedshirts.com. Use the promo code United100 and you will get a 10% discount across the store. And there's shirts from the 90s, noughties, some more modern ones as well, like rare ones that you might not be able to find. They're all absolutely original as well. So get over there, vintageunitedshirts.com, United100 for 10% discount. And as I've said before, we will be doing something for Christmas. I'm in talks with Giles at the moment over there. So, and if you've got a question about some kind of shirt that you're after, you can't find, ping Giles a message, email, whatever. Hit him up on Instagram. He's a fantastic guy, so he's always happy to help. And if you'd like to become a member of the United 100, the 100% United podcast, God, don't even know the name. Get over to patreon.com/United100, and there's different levels on there. So we appreciate all the support for our Patreon members already. And it's been a bit lively in the last few days, of course, with the managerial changes and the general upheaval at Old Trafford. But look, Ben, we got into halftime at 0-0. We got through that first half. If you're offering me that before the game, I'm snapping your hand off for it. It was a job done so far, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, and you're right, because literally all the talk before the game and Carrick speaking and everything, it was the feeling was, let's get through this game, let's get through it unscathed,
Yeah,
and let's hopefully get the win and get through and get the job done that way. But you're right, first and foremost, getting through to that half time without conceding, especially having a few scares as well, that was the main thing, and get in and then go again second half. So yeah, it was not the most exciting half we'll remember at the end of the season, hopefully, but an absolutely vital one when it comes down to it.
absolutely. But Villarreal were in control, weren't they, at the start of the second half? I'd say pretty much for the first, almost 20 minutes. David De Gea had to make a tremendous save on the 59th, and Danjuma fired over as well. But there wasn't too much from United in those opening stages of the second half.
No, it was a lot of Villarreal possession without us really being bothered about it, without them really being bothered about it. It just seemed to set into a pattern of a game, didn't it? For that, we were quite happy to defend, but then also they weren't exactly throwing everything at it, were they? So it was a weird sort of period where they had a lot of possession, like you say, De Gea pulling off a superb save, so they
It was
scared us a
great.
little bit, but yeah, it was sort of setting into that pattern where you just hoped it didn't, like we've seen this season, games drift away from us. You just were hoping it wasn't going to do that.
Exactly. And Danjuma fired over on the 63rd, and then we pulled the trigger on the subs on the 66th. Bruno and Rashford coming on for Donny van der Beek and Anthony Martial. Probably the right changes at the right time, I think.
Yeah, and I think that timing's important as well, which I think
Of course.
credit to Carrick on that, because the timings of the substitution, sorry, and you're right, in the period of the game where Villarreal had the most possession, and to be able to bring on Bruno and Rashford, it's not bad going, is it? That to show the squad depth that we actually do have.
Well, this is what I've been saying for months and years, Ben, is that we don't need to play Bruno every single game, every minute of every single game. And it took Ollie a long time to even start subbing him a little bit. Play with the animal, make him angry. Bring him on for 20 minutes. I mean, it was very different, wasn't it? When you brought Bruno and Rashford on, that's a massive statement. There's, in terms of them having to deal with things, us going on the front foot, it was it's fantastic to use the whole squad. And Rashford was found by Maguire, wasn't he? 3 minutes later, he was offside. It was a nice ball in from Maguire. That
It was, and it was as well the run from Rashford, and added that little bit of extra to the front line as well. Just
yeah,
that running in behind that obviously Martial doesn't really give us at the minute. It was just nice to see that, even though it was offside, it was a bit of a glimpse. And you've got to imagine, look, if them Villarreal defenders are seeing Rashford come on the pitch and instantly he's running in behind and stuff, he's
yeah,
stretching them about, he's changing their game plan. So it's adding that little bit of extra just potence to our attack, isn't it?
yeah. And it was interesting, wasn't it? Because of course the changes were like for like, but the structure of the team was not the same, was it? So Bruno was the one who stayed up top, was Ronaldo, and it was Marcus Rashford who went out to the left, and then Fred instead picked up a central position alongside McTominay. So you've basically made the centre of midfield stronger. You've made the left side of the field more dynamic because, of course, Rashford instead of Fred, and then you've got Bruno on the field, but you're not sacrificing the fact that Bruno is a more offensive and less defensive player than Donny because he's not picking up the same position. Donny was dropping into midfield. Bruno wasn't.
Yeah, and one thing we saw that was a staple of Ollie's time at United really was really trusting those players that he started the game with. You know,
Yes.
really pushing the substitutions and really using them as a last resort, let's be
Yeah.
honest, for a lot of the time. So to make the changes and, like I said, to make the tweaks as well, I think it's just a clear thing that you can do in game, that in game management. That look,
Yeah.
I'm not going overboard and saying it was fantastic, but it was a very good move, and it was just those little tweaks that you need throughout the game just to make sure the game doesn't drift, to make sure we're always focused in it. And
Yeah.
maybe with players like Fred especially, maybe you just need to keep his mind just switched on all the time so that he knows exactly what his job is in the team. So yeah, I thought it worked quite nicely when we changed it around.
Yeah, it did. And Jadon Sancho, was almost the beneficiary. Lovely little 1-2 with Bruno Fernandes, and this was a golden chance. If we had finished the game 0-0, if we had somehow lost this game, Ben, this is the moment you would have looked back on. 71st minute, Jadon Sancho. He's had probably his best game in the United shirt, and it was, I said golden. It was a monster chance. It was, he even did himself a favour by cutting inside the last man, making it so simple. To be fair to him, he did tuck it past the keeper, and the keeper just got it with his leg, didn't he? But it was, at that stage, at 0-0, you thought, are we going to pay the price for that?
Yeah, it was a guiltless chance, and he should have finished it. But the actual move to get there is, he just seen it and just seeing a glimpse of it, and you're thinking, this is what we're waiting for with these type of players in the team. Bruno, Sancho on the same wavelength, and just how they can make, let's be honest, two passes look so seamless but so smooth. And Sancho's sleight of movement going through is, at times, it's fantastic. So to actually get the move, it was superb. But yeah, you're right. It needs to go in the back of the net, and if it had ended another way, we might have been ruining it.
Yes, but he was starting to look like that player that I watched at Borussia Dortmund. Look, Bruno created a couple of chances, didn't he, after coming on, to be fair to him. It was better from United, but then on the 79th minute, Fred, you've got to give him a bit of credit for this one. Closing down, hassling and harrying. And of course, he was then in the more central position, wasn't he? So again, you got that Fred in the middle now instead of on the left. Ronaldo, God alive. The ball dropped to him. The way he spun straight away, it was like call into action. When it left his foot, Ben, did you have any doubt whatsoever? Because I was up dancing around the room already.
I bet you were.
It was so, I just have such faith in him from he just scores every type of goal, doesn't he? He's unbelievable.
Oh, it's a formality. And he never even looked up at the goal, did he, when you saw it on the replay? It was eyes at the ball at all times, and he knows exactly where the keeper is, exactly where the goal was. Yeah, the decision making in his mind to be able to, not even to be able to do it, but to even think to do it in that moment and to do it in such quick reaction time was superb. But
the sharpness that he turned, the shot, that it was like everything was perfect. He did himself every favour he could possibly do to score that goal.
I don't know if your dance moves would have been so sharp around your living room.
You should have seen me.
Oh dear me.
Oh, that's a bit of you, isn't it?
Oh, I'm not sure, mate. I'm not sure. It's a good job we've won, isn't it? That's all I can say to that.
10 for the season for Ronaldo, 6 in the Champions League, double figures already. Honestly, anyone saying that we can just do that, can't we? Like we did tonight. Make sure you're solid. Make sure you create a chance or two. And the chances of winning the match with Cristiano Ronaldo are pretty blooming high.
Yeah, and just a note on Fred as well, that we'll go on to it when we talk about the second goal as well, but the pressure he puts on the ball, I know it's a mistake from the Villarreal player, but this pressure is obviously the right type of pressure. He's pressuring at the right time. He's not waiting for the Villarreal player to get the ball and then it's 2 seconds later he's coming in out of position. He's there in a hurry, and it makes the Villarreal player make the mistake.
Yeah.
And it's that's what we've been missing from I know there's been a lot of talk about how we press and all this sort of stuff, but that actual just decision making of just getting there at the right time is so vital, because if he misses it and the pass goes, he's out of position and that's where it all falls apart. So just that little decision making there, yeah, give a bit of credit to Fred as well.
100%, absolutely. It was superb stuff. There was a couple of chances at both ends after the goal, and then Ronaldo pickpocketed them again, didn't he, on the 84th, just wide. I mean, I wasn't dancing around the room, but I did think that was going in as well, I must say, because Cristiano Ronaldo, unfortunately, just wide, and Rashford almost caught the keeper out as well. Ole would have loved that watching on from home, because that's his old trick, isn't it? Always fired it through the defender's legs, and it did take a wee deflection, and the keeper did well to push it away. So I can imagine Ole smiling on his sofa somewhere in Norway.
Absolutely, yeah. But we looked a bit more relaxed up front, I thought, after the first goal as well, didn't we? When these chances were coming.
And Rashford looks like he's he's physically in superb shape at the moment, doesn't he? The body on him, it looks stronger and it looks faster and more explosive at the moment.
Yeah, and leaner. He's looked, since he's come back off his injury, he does look, like I say, in physical condition, ready to be the best he can be.
Yeah, I would say that. And Bruno had a half volley deflected wide on the 86th minute. And then on the 90th minute, Jadon Sancho. It was a 7-player move, again started by Fred. He won the ball back deep in our own half, went through 7 different United players, ended up with Jadon Sancho. He was in that position where he scored that lovely goal at the Nou Camp, wasn't he? Maybe a little bit further out for Dortmund. And when he lined it up, I thought, go on, do it again. Even better this time. Crossbar and in. My blooming favourite. Through to the next round, Ben. Just what we wanted. Not just the win, but we also have Ronaldo scoring again. Sancho, the boost he gets. Donny, the boost he gets. We got other members of the squad who've had a boost. Relief, of course, but also a bit of joy tonight. It was good to feel again, wasn't it?
Oh, it really was. And you could see it as that goal went in and Sancho scored, you could see that in the celebrations. Not only the fact that Jadon's now got his first goal for the club, which I think is vitally important for him, just to get that off his back, just to get the goal, get a decent performance in, and play the full game as well, which was once we've not really seen it from him this season, have we? But it was a sense of relief. I think you could see go through the whole team as they celebrated that goal. You could see everyone there together, and you're right. That's what exactly what we needed tonight. It's not a blueprint to go forward in terms of play the whole season like that, but it's exactly what we needed just to stabilise things at the minute, just to get everything back together. And like I say, ground us a little bit, ground us for what's next.
Yes.
And yeah, look, credit where credit's due. Carrick, he's had 48 hours to prepare the team. I was very, very dubious when the announcement came that he would take over as interim, pre-interim manager when it came. I was very dubious about it, and obviously the whole coaching staff's still there. But to be fair to him, in the 48 hours, he's got that performance out of the team from Saturday, which was the horrendous. So yeah, fair play where it's due, isn't it? And we've got to be happy after that because it's a 2-0 win and we're through to the next round.
Yeah, we almost had 3 at the death, didn't we? Marcus Rashford had another chance, and actually, Ben, Mata came on for Sancho. So Sancho didn't get the full match.
My bad.
Had to get Mata on. But look, at the end, it was very nice to see. Carrick was giving Donny a little bit what seemed to be like a pep talk. I think he was saying, I'm going to play you next week as well, if I'm still in the job. And then it was lovely to see Donny then get excited about Sancho breaking his duck as well. So it's like the sub crew come good, wasn't it, over there?
Yeah, the outcast, really, isn't it, from the first part of the season?
Yeah, the Rebels return. So it was good to see, and it's good to see Michael Carrick loving it. And of course, there was many songs for Ollie, many songs for Carrick, and an all-round great day at the office. Got a man of the match today, Ben?
Oof, I think I'd have to give it to Sancho, to be honest. I think...
Yeah, me too.
Just because he's got his first goal, I think he showed us a bit something else that we've not seen on that right-hand side for some time. And he just is almost that Swiss Army knife of a winger, isn't he, really? Because we haven't seen the full Sancho yet. We've seen glimpses and we've seen him from more of it tonight. But we can just see what he can do in the United team. We can see why we've paid the money for him because of what he can potentially bring. And he can be that playmaker, can be the goal scorer tonight, and he can just give us so many options from that right-hand side. From the left as well, in the middle, but I think that right-hand side is one that that's one he can really make his own in this United team.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, the goal was the thing that clinched it. I thought his performance all round was good. But if he had that performance and missed that golden chance and it had been 0-0, I couldn't have justified giving him the man of the match award, to be honest with you. But the fact that we did get the goal through Ronaldo, of course, and then Sancho put the icing on the cake, I would buy into that. Although, Ben, I do have to say, I'm keeping an eye on you and Scott, and it has been a hell of a long time since someone got the man of the match award who didn't score a goal. So I'm keeping an eye on you two because I think we're dishing it out to all the goal scorers, Ben, you know. But I don't know whether it's you and Scott or it's the fact that our defence is so bad or has been so bad for the last months. I mean, how can you not just give it to the one person who scored?
Well, I was going to say I'd love to make a case for someone, but let's be honest. When you look at the performances, it's few and far between, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm playing around, but yeah, I think it's more the team than you two. Anything else to add in terms of the game? Of course, we've got Ollie and the potential new boss to chat about. Any other takeaways from today?
Yeah, no, I think tonight, because to be honest, before the game, I had a really weird feeling about it, just
Hmm.
with everything going on. I think during the game, it was a little bit of a weird feeling, trying to work out what in my head was going on in terms of what we're trying to get out of this game. But I think if you take it in isolation, like we have done, and think of what we needed from tonight, we needed the win, we needed to get through, we need to be defensively solid. I think in isolation, absolutely job done,
Yeah,
and it's a really good grounding to go forward. So yeah, I think there was a lot before, there'll be a lot after, but I think right in the result, it's exactly what we needed.
yeah, we can get a good night's sleep tonight, can't we?
Oh, absolutely, mate.
No worries whatsoever. So, mate, we have to get into. Of course, look, me and Scott dropped the podcast straight after the match on Saturday, and then as I was getting the pod up, the news was breaking that it seemed like there was a board meeting had been called, and that Ollie was potentially his head was on the chopping block. I know on the pod on Saturday I said that I just can't see us sacking him. I can't see us sacking him. I even said if I had to bet my life on it, whether Ollie be in charge for the Villarreal game, I'd have to say that he will be in charge. So I would have lost that one. But the reason I said it is because I couldn't believe that any result against Watford, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, would have changed what you knew in the previous weeks. And I couldn't believe that we didn't sack him after the Liverpool and the City games, and then we had the international break to wait, and then we would sack him in between a Saturday and Tuesday game before one of the biggest games of the season. I just couldn't imagine we would be that stupid. But I'm stupid for not realizing that, of course, we could be that stupid.
Yeah, it's an absolute shambles in terms of decision making process from the people that matter most in terms of the important decisions that we made at the club. It really is a shambles, because you're right. Like, there was nothing to really say when that Watford game came. You're right. I know you and Scott spoke about the week off that the players only had, the fact that it'd been an international break, the fact that it's not like they spent 2 weeks on the training ground trying to improve stuff. It was very much the same team, the same management, the same ideas that are coming back. There was no evidence whatsoever that anything was going to change. And you're right, that if it hadn't changed after the Liverpool game and after the City game, why is it going to change now? But that 5 hour Zoom meeting or whatever it was, that, geez, I wouldn't have liked to have been in it, but I couldn't imagine the type of things that were being talked about. How it takes 5 hours to come to a decision after watching that game, I don't know. But look, that's for them to work out. And it just got to that moment, didn't it, on Saturday, where the more it went on into Saturday night, into Sunday morning, the more reports were coming out, the more we saw this sort of towards the end of Mourinho, Van Gaal era, the little leaks out the club, or the little journalists getting the sort of the sniff of something actually happening, the fact that there wasn't much from the club in terms of support and official statements. It was all culminating into what happened on Sunday. But
Yeah,
just the fact that, like I said, the fact that it took 2 weeks to get to this game, and then we make the decision within 48 hours of the next game in what is running into our busiest period of the season.
yeah.
Let's not forget, like the and a really vital important part of the season, and a crunch important part of time, where we've got some big fixtures coming thick and fast. It just boggles your mind, doesn't it?
It does, Ben. And what boggles it the most is that, okay, they didn't want to sack him after the Liverpool game. We know that now, right? Because they didn't. But you would have thought they'd start putting a plan together just in case, right?
Yeah,
After that debacle, you'd say, okay, well, let's get a shortlist put together at least, right? Whereas for me, it just seems like we've gone to this Watford game and thought that everything's going to be all right. Like, they honestly thought everything was going to be all right, and then losing, 4 goals to conceding 4 goals at Watford has resulted in us basically saying, okay, actually, that's the straw that broke the camel's back, but the camel's back was already broken. So it's crazy. crazy stuff. I couldn't believe it. I absolutely couldn't believe it that we did it. But can I just put on record that although I thought the best course of action was to sack Ollie, I didn't just want Ollie sacked for the sake of it. Because it seems like that's what the club have done. They just sacked him for the sake of it because, okay, now everyone wants him sacked. Okay, we'll sack him. Now what do we do? That's not what I wanted. I wanted us to make a plan ages ago and say, Ollie, thanks a lot, and go ahead with a plan. Not interim manager before the interim manager before God knows what.
Oh, it's clear, and we talk about plans, it's clear there wasn't a plan because
None at all.
As fans, we can look at ourselves now and honestly say, during Ollie's tenure, there are times that, we've probably got a bit carried away. We've absolutely wanted him to do the best. We've believed in him and wanted to win trophies, win leagues, win titles underneath him. And looking back now, thinking, maybe we're a bit naive, maybe we're a bit in dreamland. But that's what a fan's all about. It's about absolutely going on that journey with your manager and your team and absolutely putting faith in them at all times. And even when the chips are down and stuff, and we still believe we might be able to turn it around. But when you're making the decisions at the club, you cannot have an inch of that mentality. You've got to be doing what's best for Manchester United Football Club. And you're right, after the Liverpool and the City games, to not even have any sort of sense of what happens if someone else was to come in, because you should have that at all times. Because let's be honest, look, if you get an elite manager in, it doesn't matter, because we know how things change in football. Things can change very quickly.
Or there can be, accidents, nothing to do with football. There can be an accident that basically makes them incapable of working again. So you should always have a contingency plan. You should always have a backup plan. As I said before on this pod, that every month the powers that be should convene and they should say, is the shortlist the way it should be? Or do we need to move this manager up, this manager down? They should know all the contract details. They should know Zidane's not interested. We already know that. So don't even leak the story. Don't even try and go ahead with it. We already know if he's not interested. That seems to be the case. You should know all these things. You should know exactly the contract situation, exactly whether Ten Hag will walk out of Ajax. Everything should be knowledge.
It absolutely should be. And the thing I've been doing sort of the past couple of days, is I actually look back at when we sacked Mourinho and when Ole took over as caretaker boss, and you looked at the reports them coming out of the club, and everything coming out was, yes, the club were planning to put a director of football in place and going with a new system, and Ole's coming in, and then we're going to hire a permanent manager after that. And you could go back that far and say there wasn't a plan then, but come back to it now in present day, and you're right, because if Ole's going out the door, the next manager should be coming in straight away. And that statement that came out to announce he was sacking was an absolute embarrassment. I've never, ever seen a football club post a statement to say the manager has left the club and then say they are now employing a caretaker manager and looking for an interim manager until the end of the season. That was the sentence that irritated me more than anything out of it, because with that sentence, you are essentially saying we are now throwing away this season.
Yes. And the problem is, mate, is that we've done this to a lot of seasons. We've chucked away these seasons. We had Ollie as an interim manager, didn't we? And then we had, you know what, Ben? I actually went back because I as time goes by, your memory is distorted, and your memory of events and your memory of feelings is they're all distorted. I went back, I listened to a pod me and Scott did over 2 years ago. So we're talking October 2019. So less than a year of Ollie being in the job. And we were not happy. We were not happy at all. So basically we did this pod, and I think I then said one other time, I don't think Ollie's up to the job. And then we left it. We never mentioned it again because there was nothing else we could do. It was obviously he was going to keep the job. So we wanted to support him, get behind him. But the things we were talking about, Ben, it was so funny. I was talking about two defensive midfielders. He is playing two defensive midfielders. All of these things that we've seen happen again and again, we were talking about back then, mate. It wasn't all sunshine and roses. We've basically we're looking at it with rose tinted glasses. And I'm not being harsh, because I wish Ollie all the best. I hope he lives out the rest of his days with a big smile on his face, like I've always seen him. But we are rewriting history because there's if he wasn't one of us, he wouldn't have lasted. Even a third of the time.
I think you're right, and you've got to take it at two angles, haven't you? Because you look at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as a man, fantastic. Like he's clearly got so much respect from everyone in the game. He's clearly a very, very nice man. You would love to work with an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Of course you would. You'd probably even like to have him as your manager at some point.
Unless I was a professional footballer.
Well, yeah. But in terms of actual playing under him, you can probably say during the whole tenure, the players have probably enjoyed his type of management. I think you can probably say that at times it's been too lenient. It's not been enough for the club. But in terms of actually the feel good factor, or whatever you can call it, you can say that he brought a lot of club. When Mourinho left, there was a sour taste in and around the club. He turned that around. Absolutely, he did that as the interim boss. And then you look at his tenure, and I think you're right. I think you can look at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and we're not talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as a player because absolutely a legend as a player, will always be in the history books of United for what he did in '99, for what he did for the club. That's out of the question when we talk about him as a manager.
Yeah.
But looking at his managerial career at United, and just at that in isolation, you're right, because yes, he's done some things at the club, but he didn't win a trophy. And all the talk was that he leaves the club in a better place from that he found it. And you look at us now, we're sixth, we're 11 points off fourth, we're 19 points off the top of the league.
And we're talking about people coming in to sort out the dressing room, to lift the dressing room. Like that's what we were doing before. That's what Ollie came in to do.
Exactly. So it's look, I'm sad more than anyone that it's not worked for Ollie United. We all wanted it to work United. We all dreamt of us lifting a trophy with Ollie as the manager, but it's not happened. He's not been able to do that, and
it's true.
It's sad to see him go, but when you look at the current state of the team, it's a shambles. Yeah. It is, and you see at the weekend. Go on, mate.
No, go. Finish off, mate. No, go on.
I was going to say, you see at the weekend, and the likes of Harry Maguire as captain getting sent off, and I know you put it on the post match, and you just look at all the evidence of the weekend, and then them leaving and stuff, and then it was a weird feeling on Sunday night because I thought I wouldn't have minded if that had happened in the summer. If in the summer the club had decided to change, there might have been a few of us going, could he have done more? Could he have taken this team to the next level? But if the club would have been a bit cutthroat, made the decision, released a video of him doing an interview, getting emotional, didn't quite work out, he's going elsewhere, fair enough. But we're in the midst of a very, very important part of the season here. We haven't got time for it.
You're so right, mate. That's the way I felt as well. And I do have to say, look, I wish Ollie all the best. He came in when we were down and out. We had some bloody good days. Not too many great days, but we had some bloody good days. And look, as a player, I mean, I saw, I've seen every single second of Ollie playing for United, so, I'm not someone who hasn't seen Ollie play. I have. But I do have to say, Ben, he gets a free pass for everything. He really does, because in his farewell interview, he thanked the owners. Now, can you not say that to their face and not say it to us?
True.
Why? Why are you thanking the owners? Like, you were the one who signed up to the petition to oppose these owners. When you're working under them, you're paying them, you want your payout for them, fair enough. You don't want to say anything bad for them. I understand there's non-disclosure agreements and stuff like that when you get a payout. Totally understand that. But when you're saying thanks to the fans, you also say thanks to the owners. I haven't heard anyone mention this.
I think it's a very good point, because I think there's a lot been said, hasn't there, that Ollie is a guy of class, and it shows that. I kept seeing a lot of people have said since it shows you the stature of the man and the class of the man and the way he's gone out. But I mean, obviously, what do you expect? Like, obviously, he's going to be like that. But you're right. The loyalty to the owners in the job is totally different from when you've just left the job, because you're right. Like, we know a United manager in a job is never going to come out and criticise the Glazers. Of course they're not, because they wouldn't win the job the next day. It's not going to happen. But But you're right to make a point of it when it isn't needed
Yeah.
is a
And
bit of a
also, he
strange one.
doesn't do himself a favour, does he? Because if that's the case, then you know, when we look back at, oh well, maybe the Glazers didn't sign that player, or they signed him too late, or blah blah blah. Then Ollie has to take the hit for that, doesn't he? Because he's saying the Glazers are fine. So, but yeah, it's interesting. You know what? I will, in the next couple of days, I'll post a link to that old school pod. All right. 2 years ago, we're talking about like, so it's obviously before when we signed Bruno, right? And I'm saying, look, in the summer, it was obviously we should have signed Bruno, and it's so funny. Look, I did say that Dan James, creates a golden chance every game, and he's because he was on fire at the time. So I was basically it's very funny. I'll post it anyway. So I'm crowing about Danny James, and the rest of it is pretty much the same as it ended, Ben, 2 years later. So. Have you got anything else to say about Ollie? And of course, we will talk about the Ollie era in more depth as the weeks go by. Anything else to add? It's still a bit raw, isn't it?
Yeah, it's still a bit raw, a bit weird, obviously. And I think, like you said, look, we have that respect for him as what he's done for the club and the good things or the good moments, which I think was part of the press release that got read out when he got that. It was the good moments that he gave United rather than the titles that he's given us or the great seasons. I think, yeah, look, we respect him for that, but I think, like I said, it's more about where it leaves us now. Like, look, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to go off to Norway with his family. He's obviously upset it's not worked out for him, but I'm no doubt he'll have a good life, and I hope he does. But
Yeah.
I'm now trying to think, hang on a minute, it's all right us waving goodbye and thanks for everything, Ollie, but where does that leave us now? There's clearly no plan. I think that obviously that's what we're going to go into now, but it just leaves us in an absolute mess, and I think it comes from the top. You're right, it comes from the fact that they've not planned for this. They've not planned for what's next.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, if they'd done it before the international break, I probably would have, we would have done a pod and whatnot. I just don't have time for it, Ben. I don't have time for it. I wish him all the well. It made me sad when I saw him crying. Maybe annoyed when I saw him saying thanks to the Glazers. And then I was Villarreal game. Look, what's going on? Who's going to be the boss? How are we going to get these 3 points? I want to be in the Champions League knockout stages. So I just didn't really have the time for it, like you were intimating earlier. And what about the new boss? That is the $1 million question at the moment, isn't it, Ben? First of all, I guess I'd say who's your number one choice? You can pick anyone within reason. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, my number one is Pochettino.
Well, okay, well, you're a lucky boy tonight. Then it looks like that's the way things are moving, doesn't it?
It does, and I think if that is the case, then my God, we've got lucky. Because let's be honest, when the press release was clearly sent out and the interim manager was announced, the conversation obviously hadn't been had with him about whether he would come to United, and we know he spoke glowingly of United and Ferguson in the past, and we know he's wanted the job in the past. Let's be honest. You mentioned that pod you guys did, I think probably around the same sort of time. He was being touted for the job potentially to replace Solskjaer at the time. So
Scott was all over him, wasn't
yeah, we know he's wanted the job in the past. I think he would be my absolutely number one in terms of an elite coach, in terms of a fact that he'd bring a plan, a clear plan in place.
he? Yeah.
The fact that he's got a track record of improving players, and the fact that he's not happy at PSG, the fact that he actually wants the job. I think if rumours are believed, and I think, let's be honest, when we hear these rumours, I know he's had a bit of a press conference with PSG ahead of their game against City tonight, but look, he's never going to come out and say whilst he's in a job that he wants to go elsewhere, or else he'll be sacked on the spot. But
Maybe he wants to. Maybe he wants to
well,
be sacked.
I think he'd rather have the payout, wouldn't he? That United might be paying compensation and then getting a big sign-on fee. But
Yes.
Yeah, it's clear that everything would be an absolute ideal situation if we could manage to get him in, because I think he would bring a hell of a lot to this team and to this club. But I think it would be a massive stroke of luck by the board if they managed to do it.
Yeah, I mean, Pochettino's not my first choice. I
Go on,
wouldn't
who's yours?
say he's actually in my first few choices, but
Would you not?
no, but I could get right behind him big time, absolutely 100%, and I can envision him being monstrously successful at United. I can also envision us being 2 or 3 years along the line and being pretty much in the same situation again. Those are the two things I could see. I would totally get behind him. I could totally see the positives to it. Personally, at the moment, my first choice is Zidane. Of course, it seems like it's a non-goer. It seems like Zidane is going to be the pawn to get your king, effectively, right? But I would go for Zidane just simply because of the makeup of the squad in terms of ages and experience, and in terms of the fact that Zidane is the Champions League manager, isn't he? I mean, he's the most successful Champions League manager ever. I think I'd be right in saying so. You got Varane already, you got Ronaldo already. I think this squad is ready to win now. You know, we talk about rebuilds, we talk about looking to the future. Sometimes you've got to open your eyes and say, we need to win now. And I think that's the situation we're in. So that's personally why I would go for Zidane. But like I say, I can get on board with a few names out there.
Okay. No, I see what you're saying. I mean, I think if we're led to believe the rumours and reports, obviously it's whether Zidane actually would want the job. But
Yes.
I don't know. I just plumped for Pochettino just over the fact that I think what we've absolutely lacked more than anything this season is just an elite coach, a clear vision of what type of football to play, something to implement on the training ground. Evidence of what's happening on the training ground is actually happening on the pitch as well. I know Zidane's got the Champions League record, but I don't know. There'd still be a niggle of doubt in terms of just coming into the Premier League and coming into the situation at the minute. I mean, whatever manager comes in, they've got to hit the ground running. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's got to be, like we say, a one for now and for the future and everything in between. So it's not an easy job to come into straight away. But I just go for Pochettino just for the style of football he's played, for the coaching abilities that he can bring and the improvement that I've seen him put into different players. I just think it'd be ideal for that.
Yeah, and the squad seems a relatively good fit for him as well, I would say, with Pochettino. What about Ten Hag? He is quite a popular choice, doing the rounds on on the forums and on your United fan sites. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, look, I can see the clamour. I can see the way he plays his Ajax team. What I would say is the setup that he has at Ajax is all geared towards helping him play that way, if that makes sense. So we know they've got a very good structure in Ajax with the director of football, Edwin van der Sar, we know is there, Mark Overmars, and the football structure they have, and Ten Hag coming in and being that coach. I think he clearly is a very good coach. I think I just rather go for the little bit more experience at maybe a higher level in terms of Pochettino. I know you mentioned Zidane as well, and just having that little bit extra experience and coming in mid-season and be able to have that rather than a Ten Hag. But look, I can see why he's touted for it. I'd be happy to see him come in. I just have a little bit of reservations whether he can replicate what he's doing at Ajax at United.
His European record is relatively good for the squad he's got as well, though, Ten Hag, to be fair to him, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So, look, yeah, I mean, any of those three names I can get behind. And for very, very different reasons. Of course, I mean, when I'm saying Zidane, I've cut the cord, Ben. I've changed my mentality. It's been happening over a period of years, but I've woken up and smelt the coffee. We can sign Zidane, and if it doesn't work, we can change him in the summer.
Yeah.
Or the next summer. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. So, from my point of view, if Zidane was available, we should get him in. There is, of course, the Ragnick option, isn't there? Where he has previously, it was at Leipzig, wasn't it? That he came in, he was the interim boss. He set the team up in the way he wanted to play, and then found a new boss to come in, and he moved up to director of football, didn't he? And the new boss he brought in was Julian Nagelsmann.
Yeah, and I think the big problem is it's assuming that United have the foresight to do that, because I don't think at the minute,
A big shout, wouldn't it?
I don't think we're going to change the structure of the club. I don't think, obviously, there's a question over whether Ed Woodward stays on or goes now, but I think the way that they've implemented the club with Fletcher there, with Murta there, with It was at Richard Arnold there.
Fletch was on the bench today, wasn't he?
Well, yeah.
He's been on the training field. He's been in the office. He's been doing the photo. He's literally How much is he getting paid for all these different jobs?
I think he's doing everything he can apart from the manager's job. I think that was clear, wasn't it? I can imagine the conversation coming up when Carrick was obviously offered it and Fletcher's name being touted around. And I think he's just avoided that bullet because he knows that if someone else comes in now and gets rid of Carrick, he's still got another job to fall back on, hasn't he, Fletcher?
The guy's everywhere. He's like filling in midfield, in training. It's just ridiculous, honestly. But good to see as well. But yeah, you're right. In terms of the structure, look, I said it when we named it wasn't director of football, was it? That's not what they call him. The words are arranged differently. It's not called a director of football at United. It's footballing director or something, right?
Yeah, God knows, but it's
not director of football. It was just someone who was already in the club, and they just gave him a new name to appease everyone.
Probably a bumper paycheck as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, I don't think they will. But when you look at, Ragnick, of course, did that. I think he's got a position in Russia at the moment, hasn't he? So he would be easily gettable. And look at who he got in to replace himself and move up in director of football. And look how well he did in terms of Nagelsmann. Now, look, we've got to be careful, Ben, because we're going to do it again. Back in the years where Fergie was leaving, 2013, there were options around, and the options were Guardiola and Klopp and these kind of names, right? And we didn't get them. And then Scott gave me earache for years because I really wanted Klopp to replace Fergie, and I said, I think he'd be great in the Premier League, all this kind of stuff. And of course, as soon as he became Liverpool manager, anyone who asked me, I know it's rubbish, hate him, and so for years I would, and my mates would be like, but no, but you wanted to, and I was like, no, I hate him. But now, of course, he's been monstrously successful at Liverpool. And you look back now and you think the managers were there. It's just we chose incorrectly, and the managers are there today. It's just we've already let Nagelsmann go. We've already let Tuchel go. We've already let Conte go. And before you know it, the years go by and you go, oh God, all the world-class managers are our rivals. Yeah, because they've all, because City have now got Ten Hag and Liverpool have now got, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We do have to be careful. That we have to. Well, we should have been planning for this for months, Ben. That's the problem. And we'll, like I said before, we'll probably end up with Brendan Rodgers.
Oh, God. I hope not. I really hope not. But you're right. Other clubs have...
Bring back my Ollie to me.
Oh, yeah. Other clubs have been showing us up, though. You say in just forward planning. And it's clear with that statement, with everything that's gone on, the fact that Pochettino is the favourite and the fact that we announced we wanted an interim just 48 hours ago is absolutely bonkers. And I think you're right. And think people dreaming up the scenarios that you're right, if we get an interim in now that then goes on to director of football, hires manager, it's all well and good saying that, but I just don't see the club having that. We haven't got... Basically, what we're saying now is we just want an elite manager in.
That's what me and you are saying, Ben.
Yeah.
But the club are saying that they're making it as hard as they can. Ben, it's November.
Yeah.
Right? The last time we got an interim manager in, it was December. So Ollie was even later, right? Like, why would you bring an interim manager in November? It's like the start of the season, mate. We've only played 12 games in the league.
Bonkers.
It's crackers, or 13. It's nuts. And the other thing is, why even say it? Just say we're looking for a new manager. You might get a permanent one. You never know, right? Just keep stum. You just don't say, the interim to the interim. Just it's crazy stuff.
You're right though. Why include that in a statement? I couldn't understand when I saw it because I was like, well, so you're just admitting to everyone that you haven't had any conversations with managers. Then like we know we spoke about this when. And I know you and Scott did on the pod about Conte and stuff, how it was clear that we weren't in for him because otherwise he wouldn't have gone to Spurs. And you're right, it's got past the point now where we're saying, I want this manager in to fit this type of football and stuff. And we'll all have our preferences. You're saying Zidane, saying Pochettino. A few weeks ago, I'd have absolutely taken Conte and we'd have all got behind him. So it's got to the point now, you're right, where we're just wanting an elite manager to come in and just take control of this squad and sort us out, basically, because of the failings at the top. and
Yeah.
it is a it's a it's a double-edged sword because we're trying to get a manager in basically to mask the failings at the top of the club that we can't plan for stuff, aren't we?
Yeah, but Ben, in terms of hope for the future, one good manager does change everything. It
Oh,
really does. I mean, look at Liverpool. Go back, and look at what the Liverpool fans were saying before Klopp came in about their owners. Right? They were hating, and I know they did change their owners a little bit and all the rest of it, but still, they were still furious about the owners who were in charge now. One great manager changes everything. We've seen it already under the Glazers. We had
yeah,
one great manager before and he was fine. Of course, we could have been even better. We could have had that team with an extra bit of spice on top of it, an extra couple of world class players. But we still got to more Champions League finals than anyone else in that time, and won Champions Leagues and won 3 Premier Leagues on the trot, which no other team has done in recent history. So this is it's it's there. The blueprint's there.
yeah, it
You
is.
know,
And look, well, you've seen from the stories about Poch coming in that it's clear that his situation with PSG is not quite happy with how the club's being run. With Leonardo there as their
yes,
director of football, doesn't feel like he's got enough control. And look, let's not lie, this is clearly coming from his camp because otherwise he'd shut it down straight away.
of course it is.
So
Of course
if
it
them
is.
sort of noises are coming out of that camp, and you look at our club and thinking we just need a manager to come in and basically have control because we don't want to leave it in the hands of our footballing directors or whatever title we want to give him. We need the
Yeah.
manager to come in and sort it all out. Then maybe is that is a marriage that we want to happen. So look, let's see what happens. But I'm saying give Poch the keys and let's see what happens this season.
Yes, mate. I mean, it does seem very likely now. It's a weird one because, of course, Pochettino's in the job. He's 12 points ahead in the French league, isn't he? So he's looking like he'll win the French league. But of course, he's got that side that's full of those egos. And I suppose PSG, if you ask PSG what do they want to win the Champions League, right? You ask the United board who their top choice for manager is. Pochettino's pretty near the top, if not the very top. Fergie's been out for dinner with him. We've wined and dined him. If we've done the due diligence with any manager, it is Pochettino. Sure, it's a year or two too late, but we've done it. PSG, on the other hand, they want to win the Champions League. Zidane is the most guaranteed Champions League success you can get out there. On top of that, he is the master of dealing with egos. You could just see it now. You could just see Zidane going in there and then wrapping up the league and then winning the Champions League with Messi and Neymar and Mbappe. So in terms of logically, should a manager leave a club when they're top of the league, 12 points clear, move to another club and another manager who's out of the job, replace him there? No. In this situation, can I see it happening? 100% I can.
Yeah, and you say Zidane winning the Champions League at PSG. Could we dream up a scenario where Zidane's at PSG, Pochettino's at United? We face them in the last stages. Who knows what the rest of the season could hold? But I'm getting into the dreaming scenarios now.
I've had all sorts of dreams over the last couple of days, mate. And yes, I think our team is good enough to win the Champions League. I know they are because the teams in the Champions League this year are not very good. Barcelona, Real Madrid, Juventus, the big hitters of yesteryear are just not there. Bayern, there or thereabouts, but it's the English clubs that are the danger. And as we always know, if you're playing a domestic team in Europe, you've always got a chance. Doesn't matter if they're better than you, worse than you. You've always got a chance. So, yeah, 100% I could dream that scenario, Ben, and I have been in the last few days.
I just hope that if we're going to make the move, we just do it quickly because I
Me
think
too.
it just needs to happen. It needs to happen. If there's a sense of it happening, pay the money, do whatever, and get it happening quickly.
100%, mate. That is the absolute key now because we don't have a break now until March. So we've missed the chance to do it with a week or two for them to prep. So it really is. I would suspect, if I had to guess, it'll be after the Chelsea game. Right, you don't want to give someone a hospital pass for their first game, do you?
No, and I think the statement that came out that Carrick will be in charge, sort of what I read into it was that it was a couple of games rather than just the one game.
Yes, it all logic would suggest, but logic goes out the window, doesn't it, when we're talking about this board? So, but look, mate, positive for the future. We've got to be. We've something had to give. Something has given. We've got through to the Champions League next stage. So, of course, it's still a bitter pill to swallow that we spunked those 3 points at Watford. But if we had lost tonight as well, it really would have made the fact that we had waited that much harder to take. So, small mercies at the moment, mate. And like I say, a lot more positive for the future now.
Yeah, you're right. And look, when we were looking at the table and we're looking at the season a week ago, and even after Saturday, you look at it with different eyes than you do now. And you're right, we're in the knockout stages. You look at the teams that are above us in terms of them Champions League spots, and they're beatable. Do you know what I mean? To get into there and to get back into the top four is manageable, and we're still in the Champions League. We're still in the obviously they've got the FA Cup as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. Look, there's still stuff to be had this season. What we're hoping is we now, if it's by luck, if whatever means necessary, we can get an elite manager in and we can actually make a goal this season and not just throw it away.
I just don't understand why we would. I don't understand
Absolutely
the logic.
not.
Just why? Like, I honestly, Ben, it's not even. It just baffles me. I cannot understand. It's November. It's like literally, what are we thinking? I mean, so Scott was winding me up on Saturday, chucking all kinds of names out there because, of course, when we did the pod on Saturday, we thought Ollie was staying, right?
Yeah.
So so Scott was furious and he was going, well, why don't we give it to Steve Bruce? Why don't we give it to Mark Hughes? And he was taking a mick. And all I've seen in the newspapers in the last few days are all the joke names that Scott told me are actually being plugged as real options.
Did you see Wayne Rooney actually answering the question on whether he was interested in the United job? Oh dear me!
What are they talking about?
Yeah,
it's crackers. Literally, Steve Bruce. He's just been sacked from Newcastle, man. I love Steve Bruce. I absolutely love Steve Bruce. Literally, I absolutely love him. But I mean, and Brucey's saying, "Oh, I could come out and sort the dressing room out." So we're back to that again now.
Yeah.
So someone sort the dressing room out, and then what happens? We win a last 16 game in the Champions League in the last minute, and then it's crazy, mate. Mark Hughes. I mean, come on. When he went to Chelsea, he immediately started saying, "Well, I support Chelsea as well as United," and giving it all this one, distancing himself from United. He went to City as a manager, stunk the place out at various clubs, and now what? Now he's plugging himself for the United job. No thanks.
It's a joke, isn't it? Really, let's be honest. We're not a job for the old boys. It's interim, like I say, interim manager in November's a nonsense thing anyway. And then let alone to start touting around to these sort of names.
Just keep Ollie, and so I don't have to see him cry.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest crime would be you get an interim manager and still the same coaching staff in.
Oh, mate. So Mike Phelan's gone as well, has he, or what?
I don't know. Is Phelan not still there, or is he gone?
I think Phelan's gone too. I mean, mate, we gave him a new contract a few weeks ago
for 3 years. Bloody hell!
Yeah, it's mental, mate. Absolutely. I mean, we said it when we gave Ollie the contract, but then in the last few weeks to give all the coaching staff, it's just unbelievable, just nuts, absolutely nuts. But mate, look, we're looking for a new boss. We might have a new boss in the next few days. So listen, we've obviously got a few more days in between this pod and the next match. So of course, if there is movement on the manager front, I'll try and get Scott on and have a chat. I was going to jump on with either you, Ben, or Scott in between the match on Saturday and today, of course. Problem is it just wasn't enough time. So once the news broke and everything, if I drop the pod then, what happens is hardly anyone listens to it because a new one comes out and everyone clicks on the new one. So we've moulded them together today. But if there is movement on the manager front, then we will jump on at some stage before the Chelsea game. And yeah, mate, Chelsea game, it's out of the frying pan into the fryer, isn't it? Because we've had obviously a big game tonight, but the Chelsea game, they're playing bloody well at the moment. I think they're 3-0 up against Juventus as we speak.
Carrick better get his suit ready again, hasn't he, for Sunday, I think.
Yeah, I think so. But I think it will be. I think it'll be Carrick in charge, and then we'll possibly have a new manager after that.
Yeah, well, let's see what happens. But yeah, you're right. It's straight back at it. This is the what we've said. It's bonkers, but we're in this situation now. We're trying to look forward. If there's anything that gets announced, we'll react to it and everything. But yeah, that game on Sunday is a nightmare game in terms of who would want to play this week. But what can we do? We've got Chelsea up next. We've got to put in a performance, and if we put in a bit more defensive play that we showed against Villarreal, a little bit extra, who knows? We could get a result. So let's just see what happens.
And the players look fired up. They looked up for the fight after the game. So we will just see, mate. It's a new chapter opens in the history of Manchester United.
Oh, these fine margins, mate.
Absolutely, he had to say fine margins again in his farewell, didn't he? I was like, oh God, Ollie, just go back to being a player, mate. You know.
Yeah. Dear me, don't ever say it again, please.
Dear me, mate. But yeah, we wish him all the best, of course, and we'll see him back at Old Trafford. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So look, didn't work out how we hoped it would work out, and of course, just like Ollie, I think Ollie always tries to do what's best for the club. When we're on the pod, we always try and say what's best for the club. Sometimes we'll agree with what the club's doing or the manager. Sometimes we'll disagree, but we all just want United to be the best, and the fans, they all just want United to be the best. So it's nice that we can just be as one with Ollie now, and hopefully we get a new boss in, and we can look back on it and say that it was a means to an end.
Yeah, you're right, and I think a lot of chaos over the past few days. There's been a lot of worry. There's been a lot of what's going on, the shambles at the top of the club. But you're right, we're looking on now and thinking of this season and thinking if we get it right now, get the right manager in, we could have a positive outcome this season. So let's look into that and let's go on this. Look, what did we say at the start of the season? It was going to be a roller coaster.
Dear me.
No words.
No words, mate. Look, thanks for listening again, everyone. Make sure you subscribe to the pod. Of course, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your pods. So subscribe. And of course, if you love the pod, whack us a 5-star review and stick a nice review on there as well. Particularly on Apple Podcasts, it really does help the pod in terms of the charts and just getting it in more people's ears. Follow our socials at United 100 Podcast on Instagram and at United 100 Pod on Twitter. If you want to become a member, get over to patreon.com/United 100. Look at the different tier options there. And if you are interested in getting an old school classic Manchester United shirt, get over to vintageunitedshirts.com. Use the promo code United100 for 10% discount across the store. We'll be back after that Chelsea game, failing any new managerial incoming in the next few days. Ben, pleasure to talk to you again. At least we got a little bit of positivity to cling on to tonight, pal.
Oh, as always, mate. Nice one.
You know, any excuse to smile and we're smiling, mate. You know it.
Oh, of course. We've got to keep positivity going, haven't we, mate?
Absolutely, pal. Anyway, thanks for joining me, pal, and take care. Cheerio, Reds.